Thanks a lot. I'm Paul, and thanks for the opportunity to present our project here and to listen to these amazing talks so far. I have to admit something. I'm suffering a lot from soup coma, so after we heard this very interesting presentation, so I would fall asleep now. So to prevent this, maybe you can stand up and then talk to the person next to you about how many coffee to go mugs you used the last month. So maybe this might be the warm-up for this session. So just 1 minute or so. Okay, so if you could stop or come to an end with this. Okay, maybe finish up. Yes. Yes. It was quite easy to get in. Does this work? Yeah. So I prefer this one. So this was quite easy to get this lively discussion. So maybe you can relate to this topic that I'm talking about. So I'm Paul Endrejat from Braunschweig. It's a small city in Germany. It's somewhere between Hamburg, Berlin. I mean, I went there for my job interview the first time. So, and I applied for a job in the work and organizational department. So I might have another look or another take at this whole design thing or design approach. And maybe you realize this in the introduction and in the discussion. That's what I want to do. I want to talk about this project that we had, so enhancing the sustainability efforts of a university while teaching, actually. So that's what we do. We work in our department. We teach the students design thinking. So it's a technical university. Most of the students are engineers and so on. They never have this contact with the soft skills like presentation, leadership skills, communication, teamwork, and so on. So we teach them this, and then this project worked pretty well, so we wrote it down, and then there was this call, and then we wrote this manuscript, handed in, and here I am. So that's the way. So that's what I want to talk. First, I want to give the background, how I understand participatory interventions. Then I talk about our project, and then a little bit about the further research. So let's start. So first off, what we talked about a lot is yesterday as well, it's this whole complex issue. And it's kind of like when we expect people to behave greenly or sustainable in an environment that gives them not the affordances to do so, then we expect something that's not very realistic. So if I'm in the organization does not encourage me to behave in a sustainable way, I might be motivated, but I might not see the opportunities to do so. So we have this organization, so we need to redesign the organization to promote this sustainable behavior. And universities are a perfect playground to do so, because, I mean, there's this employees, and they say, okay, they're the scientists, they're a bit crazy, and the students are also very, they're encouraging, saying, okay, we join it, let's see what happens. So we can use organizations to come up with new ideas to make our organizations more greenly. So this in mind, why do we want to integrate people? Why do we don't want to just say or just make the organization from top down, redesign it? Because it's just like first there's this one mindset that says, okay, if I have this mindset and the belief that people are lazy and they don't want to do something, so this is like actually set in the 1960s, then I will act accordingly. Then I will make a lot of restrictions and say, okay, I have to control everything, and that follows then that the employees are passive and take no responsibility, and in the end, this confirms the mindset that I had already, this theory X from Douglas McGregor, and it's this vicious circle. On the other hand, if I have this theory Y and say, okay, people, when I give them the freedom, they will tend to do good. Then I give them as much freedom as possible. They are engaged and show a lot of empowerment, and that confirms my theory Y and why I spend them so much freedom. So I wouldn't say that these are quite theories, actually. It's just a model, how I can understand human behavior. A theory that explains why it works is this one. This figure is built on the self-determination theory. And among other things, the self-determination theory says there are 3 basic psychological needs that I need to be fulfilled. It's the first one, it's autonomy. That means I want to see myself as the origin of my actions. The second one is competence, can also say self-efficacy. I want to have like the feeling that I can have an impact on my environment. And the third one is relatedness. That means the feeling to be socially embedded within the environment. So the point is now, when I do a participatory intervention where all these 3 needs are met, then there happens something called internalization. It means something that is like the goal was external to me, it becomes now internalized in my self-concept. So I would be able then to go the extra mile to follow up the goal of the task at hand. So this is like self-determination theory explained, why I should grant a lot of freedom and encourage this social exchange with the people who are working on a challenge. So kind of to sum it up, there's this top-down approach. So if I have university and they ask consultants, so please help me become more greenly, and then he says, okay, we need to focus on these structures and processes, and then we tell the people to behave in a new way, then it would be top-down. And if we start with the people and the employees and ask, hey, what are your opinions about this? And then we align the structures and processes accordingly. That's more the bottom-up approach, or you can say design thinking, kind of. And then I work at the university, but I also have my own company. And there, when they are the older employees, they say, but what we are doing, it's quite not new. It's kind of like we did this already 20 years ago. And then I said, yeah, you couldn't be more right, because actually the solely design thinking approach, I mean, this figure is from 1947. It's kind of like this iterative plan making. So I start with a general idea, then I make the people who are supposed to change, I involve them, they should find the facts, and then I align with this new information, I align my general plan accordingly. That's a pretty old idea. So we call it design thinking nonetheless, because we want to be found on Google when people search us. So what is design thinking then? Design thinking is where we have this interdisciplinary team. It's a team-based approach, and then they just do what I just explained, what is action research. So it's action research, it's design thinking, it's like kind of the same. When I would say, when there's something, or design thinking in one sentence, and then I would say, okay, find the challenge first before you come up with a solution. That's kind of like what I think the essence of design thinking. So now, with this understanding, how do we teach it at our university, and how did we come up with this solution afterwards throughout the process? So first I thought, okay, when we have design thinking, we need a project owner. We need a team or someone or company who gives the challenge, and then the team can work with this challenge or this company. And then I thought, okay, when I have a company and then they come up with a good solution, who owns the right for this solution? Is it the company? Is it the student team? So I wanted to avoid this. I want to do something good, and then I read these numbers that there are 2.8 billion disposable coffee mugs. So I don't know. I mean, which couple just when you were talking, when you used more than 10 cups combined last month? Maybe you can. So it is a few, okay. So that shows that there's some issue, that there's this gut feeling, okay, we can do something about it. And then we came up with this process. And this is a lot, so I guide you through it step by step. But what I just want to say, it's a workshop preparation and the design thinking workshop. So this is like, that feels like, okay, we can stop here. But as you can see, this is like the shiny thing. We do this design thinking workshop, but the mess really started up here. So when we had this follow-up meetings, wanted to integrate our solution into the organizational systems. So as I said, what did we do as a start? We had the workshop preparation, and then as I said, I need a project partner, and we had this do-it-yourself platform at our university. It's Sandkasten, Sandbox. And they just said, okay, we are the project partner, we present the challenge to the students, and if they come up with some good ideas, we follow up with them. So then we did the workshop. It's 3 days. So the first day is inspiration, understand the problem. The second day is ideation, come up with solutions, and the third day is implementation. So present the idea and get feedback on it. So the first day, what they did is actually they confirmed that it's really an issue in Germany, this disposable mugs, and then they went around and asked other students, also employees of the university. Then on the second day they shared this. They also defined the key insights of the users. They built personas and ideated, so did a lot of brainstorming to come up with the idea. They presented this idea on the third day to Sandkasten, and it's like the first one was called Backup. Now it's Cup of Good Hope, so the prototype is called, so it's changed the name during the process. And it's kind of like this special bin design, and I will show you this one in a minute. So they had, so you can say, this is where the workshop stopped. They got, after the third day, they got their credit points, and then they can walk away. But actually what I just said about the self-determination theory, this team was kind of like so engaged and motivated, they follow up. So they followed up the team and met with cafeteria staff and explained the idea to them. And then the cafeteria staff said, oh, there might be some problems and so on, and they took this into consideration, had some thoughts about how to finance this stuff and or the idea, and come up with new solutions. Then they even managed with Sandkasten to build up a campaign, a marketing campaign. So where they explained the idea and asked for other followers, and then I have to admit, okay, like maybe the whole team like got replaced because some other people took over for the idea, and then they also produced a backlog where they described each step of the project, and also asked other companies to fund the idea, to get some money to build this prototype on a larger scale. And as you can imagine, it's like I explained this, like from point A to point B to point C. So it's not how it really works. So if you need one question afterwards and nobody comes up with a question, you can ask me what happens in the meantime. So I just continue this linear flow, actually, then, in the meantime. And we did this testing and iteration. And we had this prototype here, and you can see on this laptop, we explained to the people. So we didn't want to explain actually what we planned. So we don't want to sell our idea. We just want to look how people interacted with it. So we showed them kind of this presentation. So we had this pointer in our pockets and watched how they interacted with this from 10 minutes. So they have their university card, and then they should register their cup. So we plan to have an RFID chip in it. And then they were shown where they can return the cup afterwards. So at the end of the day. So in one of these testings, actually, what came out is that we expected we need an RFID chip, because otherwise students will steal the mugs or steal the cups and bring them home to them. Actually, that was not the case. So from the 50 cups we handed out, in the first testing, only 2 weren't returned. Second testing, only 1 wasn't returned, and then in the last testing, all cups were returned. So we said, like, why do this RFID chip that could be broken just handing out and see what happens. So this is what we came up with then in the end. This is a picture of a conference. So we came up with this prototype where it's explained how this works, and that's it. So it's kind of like this whole ambitious project ended up like with this prototype that we now handed out or use for conferences. And you can see also with this testing that there are other glasses or recycling, that this is seen for other recycling projects as well. So we need to iterate on this one, how we can also collect the other material that is placed to our backup. So, having said this, implications and further research, I think first, the implications. I think we have shown that these people, so the engineers, who are not really used to work with their hands and so on and think about problems and solving them, they can do so. They can also be taught within 3 days to ask these questions to get to understand their users and come up with good ideas. And then it also shows that afterwards, the workshop ended, they continue working. They did so then in a self-determined manner. So we can show this. And you can also use this concept. It's just a challenge. And we use it for some other challenges for sustainability. One of these is, for example, use office or increase office space usage to reduce energy consumption. So this is given by the facility management. So you can just work with every challenge you have. And now this is where my psychology background comes through, because it's motivational interviewing, and this is where I wrote my PhD about. Motivational interviewing is a communication approach borrowed from clinical psychology. And it's this method, and it's the mindset how we should communicate with users or with people to help them change. And it's, for example, if I want to sell something or tell something how to behave, then there's something that's called reactance. That's just the motivation to reinstate my freedom. So if you have children and you say, okay, wear the red jacket, then the motivation increases just to wear the blue one, just because I want to reinstate my freedom. So this is and we should avoid this, because what I see a lot of teams doing, when they have their prototype, they want to sell it. They want to convince the user that this is a good prototype, and then the user says, okay, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it isn't or so, but then in the end they want to be too polite and say, okay, I will use it definitely, then the team walks away and nobody uses it. So I think there's also this understanding, why should I communicate in a specific way with my user, to understand that, so we can combine design thinking with MI elements to improve the process. For example, there's also this, what the user means, what the user says. So I mean something. English is not my first language, so I might not express myself as I wanted to. So, that could be like a failure. Then what the team, so what the design thinking team hears, and what they think the user says. So if, for example, when I were taught design thinking, it was always ask open questions to understand the user. So, but in motivational interviewing, they say use more reflections, reflect, feedback to the user what he or she actually means, to understand him, to build rapport, to build this pacing that the user opens up. So you can use these techniques. So we had some thoughts about it, where we can add MI elements to the specific process. So use more reflections. Then they have also this wording writing reflex. So if I want to correct someone, if I think the user is wrong at the moment, I would say just, yeah, you're wrong, and so on. So stick away from it, and then it might work better. So as a conclusion, so as I said, we work with this technical oriented people, with the engineers, and working with them, we still showed that everyone designs who devises courses of action aimed at changing existing situations into preferred one, that this works also with this crowd who never thought about it. And then, yeah, thanks for the attention.
Okay, questions? It's that moment of pause.
First, thank you for your presentation. I'm always very delighted when I hear about thinking around sustainability, like the first presentation of today, which are gentler and softer, as someone else said, where they're not coming from fear, or that kind of urgency feel. They're coming from a different place of inspiring action or exciting action, or really a thoughtful place. So, and my question is around, I'm curious about where would you like to take this approach? What aspects of sustainability, other aspects would you like to address with this approach?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's actually, I would say I would see myself more as a servant for the people who come to me and ask me about like helping them. And I'm not the expert in any sustainability issue. I mean, like I'm a working organizational psychologist, so if they have an issue, I talk to them, and then I would just make it tangible for a team to work on. However, I wrote my promotion or my dissertation about energy savings. So, like as I said, with this facility management, so increase office efficiency to reduce energy consumption. That was like, I mean, that was the first contact where I just like say, okay, we can use this as well. But of course, other waste reduction. So one of these other was like, how can we reduce the amount of food waste in cafeteria? So we worked then. But there's a lot of hesitation. I mean, there's people, the employees, they work there for a couple of years, and then there comes the student team. It's like, okay, now they might find a solution we were blind to all the time. So sometimes it works. Sometimes they're not very collaborative at the first place, or the first contact.
Something that was really important about your work is that you really try to navigate and explain what it looks like to actually change very large and slow and conservative organizations. And an aspect of that is incrementalism, like being able to make really small change and show that it works and not just overhaul the system overnight. But I was wondering if you actually felt constrained by maybe the incrementalist approach, or if you felt like in any way that there were some parameters around starting small and slowly building up to something bigger.
Yes, I sometimes do feel constrained when I say, of course, it would be more fancy, it would be more sexy if we have this RFID chip solution. So this would be, this is like a cool prototype, it has some electronic in it and so on. And then when I show it, and it's like this only bin and so on, and it's like, okay, that's obvious. Why does this not exist already? So, but then I think, okay, but this is on the other hand a good innovation then, because if everybody asks himself or herself, why does this not exist already, then it's something that need to be there. I mean, maybe it exists already and we don't know about it. So, do I feel constrained? Yeah, I want to have it more shiny and so on. But then in the end, if we came up with something that works, that's fine. That's all I wanted. So, or that all we wanted. But yeah, it's incremental. It's about this talking to a lot of people, get the money, and then they say, no, we can't do this, and so on. And there happens so much in the meantime. This is like actually going on for 2.5 years now. And it feels like, yeah, you can't, with a lot of time, we did this also in our free time. It's not that we are hired for this. It's just like, yeah, we're self-determined to do this. It's our hobby, and so on, and that could be done smaller. It's sometimes frustrating, but also sometimes when it's then on the conference and you see this is your thing, it's like it's mine. I participated working on it, then it's all worth it again.
Oh, sorry, was it?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I was just thinking from an organizational theory point of view, considering the university as an organization, students wouldn't really be members of that organization. So I was just wondering how much impact can students really have on an organizational level? How much change are they really change makers? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's a good question that we always ask ourselves as well. I mean, at least we have 3,500 employees as well, so it's kind of like a big organization. Yes, the students, I think when they contacted the cafeteria staff, they wouldn't be like this open as we did it, or the Sandkasten did this, because they had some project before. So we were kind of like the door opener for the students, but then the students did most of the talking. I mean, we still were facilitators there, and then explained something when we thought the students went too far for the cafeteria, then we moderated a bit. But yeah, we were the door openers. Really give it a bottom up, I think this would be too much for the students. So we were like no more coordinating and channeling. This is also the whole idea of Sandkasten. It's actually, these are your project, you don't know what you're allowed to do, so we help you with this. We give the contact to the facility management and so on. But then it's your project, so we are not building something you should be building, but we might connect. So that's like the idea.
Okay. You mentioned efficiency in the system. I was wondering, have you done any life cycle assessments to gauge the environmental impact of the cups and then the cups that you're producing with the RFID tags to establish when it becomes environmentally friendly in comparison to?
Yes, we did this question. Actually, there was first we had also contact with the Greenpeace group of our university. That was the first question. So we are glad that we don't have the RFID solution right now, so I can skip this one. But yeah, it's a good question. We have this recap thing. It's the company, and we talk with them about it. It's also if you clean them, wash them, you have this water pollution and so on. And then how many times can you reuse this cup? So they guaranteed us, and it's also like the now rolled out in other cities in Germany that this is way more comparable or better than this one-way disposable mug, because the disposable mug has also this plastic top on it, and that's what really screws it up, because you can't put it in the paper bin, but also not in the plastic bin, and then it gets mixed up, and then it's like really not recyclable. So, I mean, we were sure that this is like the way to go. If everybody uses it, we have way more sustainability. I can't give you any numbers, but the team did so in the meantime. But yeah, we believe in it. But this is a presumption. I mean, this is also, we had this yesterday. Is it desired? Is it the desired end state that everybody uses this cup? I don't know. Hopefully, at least for us.
Got one last question. Thank you. Thanks. That's great. Actually, I've just realised we did that at primary school, and I think without the tops on, you know.
Yeah.
But have you? So this is done in the university and not part of the curriculum, yeah? Is that right?
So it is the students, they join these courses to get credit points.
Oh, they do, yeah.
As their extracurriculum.
Yeah,
yes. After the 3 days, they get. But usually they have this training practices or this role play or something, get inputs and so on. This usual workshop.
I see. Okay. Sorry, you did say that. Yeah. I was wondering if you thought about doing it with groups outside the university in terms of community groups and other, you know, that kind of, because it seems like it could work really well. Right?
Yes, we do this as well.
Yeah.
So, like, you need a bunch of motivated people, place to do so, and so on. And then I think now a recent project is helping homeless through the winter. So, yeah, and this is like even more motivated because it's not students. It's not because students we had then already, and then we gave them this nudge to do so. And then because they had to do that, they had to participate, and then they see, okay, it's worth it. But this needed some motivation in the beginning. The people that just join the project by themselves from the beginning, that's like, it's very nice spirit, it's very, very active atmosphere and so on. And you don't need to coach it actually. We can just join it because there's none who says, okay, we do this in the next step, what's our role then as a facilitator? And then we just can join it because it flows naturally. So also with design thinking, what is it? Because when people are new to it, I think they also define it. It's a process to come up with innovations. And I wouldn't say it's a process. It's kind of like it's a mindset and it's a way to go and so on. And yes, with people outside who are motivated, way more fun.